Think about the last time you were bored. Maybe you were sitting in a waiting room, or stuck in traffic, or watching a clock at work on a Friday afternoon. And every minute felt like 10. The second hand barely moved. Time had turned into something thick and heavy, something you had to push through just to get to the other side. Now, think about the last time you were completely absorbed in something. A conversation that felt electric, a film you couldn't look away from, a night out that seemed to end the moment it began. You looked up, and 3 hours were gone. Same brain, same clock, completely different experience of time. And here is the thing nobody tells you. Neither of those experiences was accurate. Your brain does not measure time. It constructs it. And the construction process is so deeply influenced by emotion, attention, memory, and expectation that the time you experience has only a loose relationship with the time that actually passed. You are not living in real time. You never were. To understand why, you need to understand something fundamental about how your brain processes the world. There is no single clock in your brain, no central timekeeper ticking away in some dedicated region, producing a clean, objective readout of how many seconds have elapsed. What your brain has instead is a loose collection of systems. Dopamine circuits, memory encoding processes, attentional networks that each contribute a piece of the experience you interpret as time passing. And every single one of those systems can be hijacked. Neuroscientist David Eagleman at Stanford University has spent his career studying the neuroscience of time perception. His work has produced findings that should fundamentally change how you think about your own experience. In one of his most striking experiments, Eagleman had volunteers fall from a 150-foot platform, a controlled skydiving exercise, while wearing a special device on their wrist that flashed numbers too fast for normal perception to read. His hypothesis was this. People consistently report that terrifying events seem to unfold in slow motion. If that subjective slowing was real, if the brain actually sped up its processing during fear, then the falling volunteers should be able to read the numbers on their wrists that were impossible to read under normal conditions. They couldn't. The numbers remained unreadable. The brain had not actually sped up. What had changed was not the speed of processing, but the density of memory encoding. During the fall, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, triggered a massive surge of norepinephrine. This caused the brain to encode every detail of the experience with unusual intensity. More memories were laid down per second than normal. And when the volunteers recalled the event afterward, all those densely packed memories created the subjective impression of duration. It felt long because there was so much of it to remember. Time didn't slow down during the fall. It only felt slow afterward, in the remembering. This distinction between experienced time and remembered time is one of the most important and least understood features of human consciousness. Psychologist and Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying the difference between what he called the experiencing self and the remembering self. The experiencing self lives in the present moment. It registers what is happening right now, second by second, in real time. The remembering self constructs the story afterward. It takes the raw material of experience and assembles it into a narrative. And that narrative is what you actually carry forward as your sense of how long something lasted, how good or bad it was, and whether it was worth doing. Here is the problem. The remembering self does not take an average.
It does not replay every moment equally. It follows two rules that have nothing to do with accuracy.
The first is the peak-end rule. Your memory of an experience is determined almost entirely by two moments, the emotional peak and the final few minutes. Everything in between is largely discarded. In one of Kahneman's most cited studies, patients undergoing a painful medical procedure were asked to rate their discomfort throughout. When the procedure ended abruptly at peak pain, patients remembered the entire experience as more unpleasant than patients whose procedure was extended but ended with a period of milder discomfort.
The second group experienced more total pain, but their remembered experience was better because the ending was better.
Your memory of time is not a recording. It is an editorial. The second rule your remembering self follows is duration neglect. How long something lasted barely influences how you remember it. A 10-minute version of a pleasant experience and a 60-minute version will be remembered as roughly equally good, provided the peak and the ending were the same. Which means that the metric you use to plan your life, I want more good time, less bad time, is built on a foundation your memory systematically ignores. You are optimizing for something your brain doesn't actually track.
But the distortion of time goes deeper than memory. It starts before any experience has even been encoded. Your brain runs on prediction. At every moment, your brain is not passively receiving information from the world. It is generating a model of what it expects to happen next and comparing incoming sensory data against that model. Most of what you perceive is not raw sensory input. It is your brain's prediction, updated slightly when reality doesn't match.
This predictive system is what controls your experience of time in the present moment. When your predictions are accurate, when everything is familiar, expected, routine, your brain requires very little new information to confirm its model. It processes efficiently. Time moves quickly because there is almost nothing new to process. When your predictions fail, when something unexpected, strange, or threatening happens, your brain suddenly needs to work much harder. It floods the scene with attention. It encodes heavily. Every moment requires processing. And subjectively, time expands. This is why your first day in a new city feels so much longer than your 100th. Every street, every face, every sound requires real processing. Your brain is constantly updating its model. At the end of the day, you have a rich, dense store of new memories, and the day feels long. By the 100th day, most of the city is predicted. Your brain coasts. At the end of the day, you have almost nothing new stored. The day is effectively invisible in memory. This is also why childhood felt so long and adulthood feels so fast.
As children, almost everything is new. The world is constantly violating predictions. Every experience requires full processing. Time is dense and rich and slow. As adults, the world becomes increasingly familiar. Routines solidify. Predictions become more accurate. The brain processes less. Time accelerates. And the acceleration is not an illusion. It is a direct consequence of having learned too much.
There is a phenomenon called the holiday paradox that captures this perfectly. On vacation, time feels fast in the moment. You are relaxed, absorbed, enjoying yourself. Hours vanish. But when you return home and look back, the vacation feels long. It occupies a large space in memory because it was filled with new experiences, new places, new sensory information. Your normal working week feels fast in retrospect, barely a trace in memory.
even though it may have felt slow and grinding while you were inside it when you were inside it. The time that feels fast while living it becomes long in memory. The time that feels slow while living it leaves almost nothing behind. You cannot optimize for both simultaneously. The brain that experiences richly is not the same brain that enjoys the present moment effortlessly.
Eagleman's research points towards something uncomfortable about modern life. The average adult in 2024 spends approximately 7 hours per day consuming digital media. Scrolling, watching, clicking, refreshing. Content is engineered to be maximally predictable in its unpredictability. Each scroll delivers a variable reward, just surprising enough to keep attention, just familiar enough to require no real processing. The result is a state that feels engaging in the moment, but leaves almost nothing in memory. You finish 2 hours of scrolling and you can't recall a single specific thing you saw. The time is not just gone, it was never encoded. It does not exist anywhere in your brain as a retrieval experience.
You lived those 2 hours, but you will not remember having lived them. And because the remembering self is the self that constructs your sense of how your life is going, those hours are, in the deepest practical sense, as if they never happened. So here is what your brain is actually doing to time. It is speeding through the familiar and encoding the new. It is remembering peaks and endings while discarding everything in between. It is constructing slow motion from dense memory, not from actual processing speed. It is making your childhood feel like a decade, and your last 5 years feel like a season. And it is doing all of this without asking you.
The clock on the wall moves at 1 second per second, always, without exception. Your brain moves at whatever speed the moment demands. Slow when frightened, fast when comfortable, dense when new, empty when routine. You have never experienced time as it actually is. What you have experienced is your brain's best guess, assembled from emotion, attention, prediction, and memory, about how long this particular stretch of being alive has taken. And that guess has been wrong, in one direction or another, every single day of your life.
The only question worth asking is what you plan to do with the time your brain hasn't stolen yet.